Hey guys, welcome to this video, and in this video we'll be talking about how we can add automated infrastructure provisioning using Azure Resource Manager templates, and we will be adding this to our build and release pipeline that we have created in our earlier videos. So just to give a brief introduction to Resource Manager is Azure Resource Manager is a way that you can group and manage Azure infrastructure together. So this capability that Azure provides allows you to deploy resources together, and you can monitor them, you can manage them as a group. And it also provides capabilities to use templates instead of using just script files to create your infrastructure, and this allows you to easily create templates that you can reuse to create your infrastructure whenever you want. So it's a really good practice that falls into this category of infrastructure as code, and you can use this Azure ARM templates in your build and release pipeline to automatically provision and update your infrastructure that you're deploying applications on top of. So in this video we will talk about how you can use this. I will not dive deep into what ARM is and what are the capabilities of ARM. I will quickly demonstrate how you can use these ARM templates for your infrastructure provisioning. At a later video I will dive into in detail on how Azure ARM templates work and what are the things that you need to know about Azure Resource Manager. So we will get into this video. And as you can remember, in the first video we created the build and release pipeline for deploying an ASP.NET Core MVC application, and we deployed this application on top of Azure App Service web application. And in this for creating this web application I used the Azure portal, and I had to go in and manually create the resources that I want to deploy the application on top of. So going forward, this is not something that you can do, especially for a larger application where you have multiple resources. It's not really easy to manually configure them and manually creating them. So in this video we will create an ARM template that handles this, and it will automatically provision these resources for you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch back to Visual Studio 2017, and I'm going to add a project called Azure Resource Group Project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the solution and go into add and new project, and here in the cloud node you can see Azure Resource Group Projects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this project into the solution, and I'm going to name this as infrastructure, and I'm going to click OK. And here in this select Azure template you are able to select a predefined template as a starting point. You have multiple options when it comes to selecting the template. You can select templates that is pre-bundled with Visual Studio, or you can select or search for templates that is there available in the GitHub Azure Quick Start Templates repository. So you can also start with a blank template and add your resources as you want, but for our example we will be starting off using this web app template where it has already added the web application and the hosting plan that we require. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this template and click OK, and it will take a few seconds to create the project and open it up for me. So now the project is created, and you can see now there are 3 files: deployment script file that is automatically generated for us, and there's a website.json file, as well as a website.parameters.json file. So usually ARM templates is they have two different files. One file is the actual template where you define your Azure resources using JSON, and the other file is a companion parameter file where you combine this parameter file and the template file in order to configure a group of resources. So this parameter file is quite important, where you have multiple environments that you need to define with different names, different configuration values. You can have those unique values in these parameter files and combine with the template file to deploy those environments. So what I'm going to do is, by default, on the Visual Studio 2017, when you install the Visual Studio, if you select the Azure workload, you get all these tooling automatically installed for you, and you can find a JSON outline panel here. So this panel, when you are especially working with ARM templates, is really important. It will actually give you the outline of your resources and what is defined here. So if you open up this template, the web JSON template, you can see three sections here. One is parameters, variables, and resources. Usually an ARM template is consisted of four sections. There's another section called output, which is not mentioned here. And in this parameters section, you define the parameters that you want. Basically, parameters are unique values that is different from the environment to environment, and you can define them as well. And the variable section, you can define variables, where variables are basically stuff that you can generate and stuff that you can infer. So it usually is a combination of a static string and a parameter or some other automatically generated value, and those things that you can actually define as variables. And the resources section is where all the resources are defined. As you can see here, we already have a hosting plan which is required to create a website or app service instance. We have app service resource defined here as well, and we have an application insights component, as well as some auto scaling rules and some alerting rules. So these are already given to you when you create this project using the predefined template. So what I'm going to do now is basically do some modifications to this template, and for keeping things simple, I'm going to remove the additional auto scaling settings and app insights component and other alert rules from the template. So what I'm going to do is, just to quickly remove this, I'm going to right click on whatever the resource that I want to remove and click delete, and I can delete the rest of the unwanted stuff as well. This is, mind you, just to keep the template really simple. So now you can see you have the hosting plan and the website, and I will get into modifying this. So here you can see every resource has an API version and a name and a type defined, and a location. So these things are defined in the template. So what we can do is, if you look at the Azure portal and the resource group that we created, we are kind of following a naming convention where we are prefixing our resources with KVK, build and release, and suffixing with a unique sort of a string that is unique to the application or the resource type. So we are calling the hosting plan with plan, and the web application with web. So it's always good to follow a particular well-defined naming convention for your resources. So it is something that we can build into the template as well. And to have multiple resource groups created with the same template, it's really important that you follow a proper naming convention as well. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to define two parameters. One is the resource prefix, and the other is an environment parameter. So I'm going to add those values here, and resource prefix, which will be a type of string, and there won't be a default value. And the other thing is the environment. I'm going to call this env, and this is also the type of string. And what you need to do is then go to the parameter file and immediately define values for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the parameter file, and I'm going to paste these things in, and this should be value instead of type. And for the resource prefix, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add kvk build and release, and environment I'm going to add as dev. And I'm going to remove the hosting plan parameter from the parameter file as well as from the template, because I will be adding this as a variable instead of a parameter, because we will be generating this dynamically. And I'm going to remove this. So only thing that is remaining is the SKU name and the SKU capacity. And as you can see, there are some intelligence available for this templates as well. As soon as we remove the hosting plan name parameter from the template, it is showing me that I have an error here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to define the hosting plan name as a variable instead. So we already have the website name, and I'm going to paste this in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use few functions that is available in ARM just to generate this hosting plan name dynamically. So there's a function that is called concat, and just as you can imagine, it will actually concatenate several different strings together. And I'm going to refer to that parameter that I created earlier, the resource prefix, using parameters function. And I'm going to call this resource prefix. It will provide the intelligence for you. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the environment in the middle of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call again parameters and call environment variable, and then I'm going to add a static string since this is a plan, and commit to add plan. So in a similar way, I'm going to copy this and create the website name as well and paste this in. Only thing that I need to change, instead of plan, I need to change this to web. So as you can now imagine, our naming convention will be the resource prefix combined with the environment value and combined with the unique resource suffix. So what I'm going to do now is, since we are referring this hosting plan name as a parameter, we need to change this since this is a variable now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in variables, and this error will go away, and I'm going to fix all the other references as well. And we have defined the website name as well as the hosting plan name. So if you look at the template itself, we have dependencies between resources. So for example, in order to create the website or the web app instance, you have to have a hosting plan in place. So how we define these dependencies is using this depends on sections. Here you can actually refer to a resource ID that is depending on that is this particular resource is depending on. So if you define this hosting plan as a dependency of web application or the website, it will make sure, or the ARM engine will make sure that it will check for these dependencies and will not create the web application before creating the hosting plan name, because when you have multiple resources defined in the ARM template, the ARM engine will try to do things parallelly, and if you don't define these relationships or these dependencies, it will try to deploy resources where it is depending on another resource to be present at that moment. So now I think we have done the necessary changes to the template, and we have also done the changes to the parameter files as well. And I'm going to rename the parameter file just a bit. I'm going to rename this to web parameters.dev.json, so we clearly denote that this is the dev parameter file. And next step is to actually commit this and use this template. So now we have created the template, and we have created the parameter files as well. The next step is to actually test the templates, and to do that, what we can do is we can use PowerShell, and we can also use Azure CLI as well. But in this instance, I'm going to use a PowerShell to do this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up a PowerShell command window, and you need to log into your Azure account through PowerShell, so you can execute these following commands. So the command to login is login Azure RM account, and when you enter, you can enter your credentials and log in. So I'll enter my credentials and come back after logging in. As you can see, now I am logged into my Azure account, and I am able to access the resource groups that is available in the Azure subscription. And I'm going to clear the screen, and the command to test the ARM templates is called test Azure RM resource group deployment. And before running this command, I'm going to switch to the directory where the template is available. So so the templates are available here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in test Azure RM resource group deployment, and we need to supply the resource group name, which is and release build and release pipeline. We'll paste that in, and the next value is the parameter file or the template file, and we'll give the website.json as a template file, and the next value is the template parameter file that is associated with this template file. Template parameter file is website parameters.dev.json, and we'll provide the verbose flag as well. So when you enter this, it will actually try to run this template and validate this against the resource group that you have defined. So since the template is valid, what I'm going to do now is basically run this template using the Visual Studio Team Services account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to commit these changes to your repository, and I'm going to come back once these changes are pushed to the remote repository. Okay, now I have pushed the changes that I added to the solution, that is the ARM template project, to the Visual Studio Team Services Git repository. And the next step is to include this in the build pipeline. So it's always good to validate your ARM templates on your build pipeline. So what we are going to do is add a validate step for your ARM templates, and once the validation is passed, we will be copying this ARM templates over to the artifacts that we are creating. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edit pipeline and add the relevant tasks. So it's always good to quickly fail when it comes to your builds. So even before installing the ASP.NET Core SDK, we can add a task to validate the ARM templates. So ARM templates can be validated using the build or release pipeline using a task that is provided by Visual Studio. So you can search for resource groups in the task list, and this Azure Resource Group deployment task will appear. So you can add this to your build definition, and I'm going to rename this as date ARM templates, and I'm going to select the Azure subscription that I'm going to use, which is this MPN subscription, and I'm going to select the action as create or update resource group, and I'm going to select the resource group here as well. This resource group will be the build and release pipeline. So during the break I went ahead and removed the application, the web application, and the hosting plan that the app size plan that we create, and the app size plan is still on the process of removing. So we will be creating these using the template instead, and the location is Southeast Asia, and I'm going to select that. And the next thing is I need to select the template and the template parameter file. So I can do that using this window that was given, and I'm going to select the template file. Before that I need to switch back to VSTS, and now the template file should be available, the infrastructure project, and I'm going to select the website.json as a template file, and the template parameter file is the website.parameters.dev.json. So once these two files are created or selected, the next important configuration value is this deployment mode. So here you can select 3 different deployment modes. Incremental means it will not touch any of the resources that is not defined but is present on the resource group, and it will only make changes to the resources that is defined in the ARM template. So if you have selected incremental, this will actually deploy the resource group. The complete option is basically it will wipe out all the resources that is there in the resource group and redeploy all the resources using the ARM template. So this is a destructive thing that you have the option to set. And the final thing is validation only. This will actually take the template and the parameter file and run some validations to make sure the template is valid. So what we want to do at this point is have validation only, and I'm going to select that. And finally we need to actually copy over the ARM template files to the artifact staging directory as well. So for that I'm going to add another task. I'm going to search for copy and add this copy files task, and I'm going to select the source folder as the infrastructure folder, and the contents will be all the JSON files that is included there, and the target folder is the artifact staging directory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another folder called template in here, and it will copy the template files. I'm going to rename this as copy ARM template, and in the publish artifact task it will actually pick up everything that is included in the artifact staging directory, and it will create the artifacts drop. So this is what we want to add to the pipeline, the build pipeline, in order to validate and copy over the ARM templates. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save this with a comment. And after saving, I'm going to queue a new build, and I'm suspecting that there's a new build already happening here. Okay, so I'm going to queue a new build here. And this will take a few minutes to build and generate the artifact drop. So I will come back once the build is complete to show you how you can configure this in the release pipeline itself. And now you can see the build was successful, and it has successfully validated the ARM templates, and they copied the templates over to the artifact staging directory. So if you go into the timeline and take a look at the artifact drop that it created, it should contain the templates that we included. So you can see the folder is created for templates, and the website JSON and the associated parameter file is already there. So we can now proceed to the next step, where we will be updating the release pipeline to deploy these ARM templates and deploy the application on top of it. So the next step is to go to the releases, and let's modify the release that we have created earlier. Give it a few seconds to load, and we have already have a running release. I'm going to stop this or cancel this release, since it will fail because we don't have the resources anymore, and I'm going to cancel this out. Then I have cancelled the already running release, and now you can see there aren't any releases running. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and edit this release definition. So I'm going to click on edit, and the next step is to add the ARM template deployment step to this dev environment task set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to again click on add a task button and search for resource, and the resource group deployment task is available for you, and I'm going to add that, and I'm going to move it just before the Azure App Service deploy. And again I'm going to configure this, so I'm going to rename this to deploy ARM templates, and I'm going to select the subscription and select the resource group. It is build and release pipeline, and the location of the resource group is Southeast Asia. And from the linked artifacts that is available for this build, I'm going to select the template and the parameter file. So now the template and the parameters is available for us. I'm going to select the template file first, and then I'm going to select the parameter file. Okay, and the deployment mode, I'm going to keep it as incremental, so this will actually deploy the template, and if there are any other resources in the resource group, it won't touch them. And we need to make a small modification to the app service deploy test step as well, since the web application name got changed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make that change here. So this will be KVK build and release dev web, since we will be deploying the we will be deploying on top of the dev app service resource. So now we have done the modifications in order to deploy the ARM templates, and again then after that to deploy the Azure ASP.NET Core MVC application on top of the newly created resources. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. And I'm going to queue a new release. I'm going to create a release and make sure I select the latest version as the build artifacts, and I'm going to create this release. So now you can see a new release has been created, and this will spin up a new agent and start deploying the ARM template and the web application. So I will come back after the deployment is complete and show you how it was completed. As you can see now, it has successfully deployed the ARM templates, and you can see that the resources are created. So you can see the app service plan and the app service is created, and now it's in the process of deploying the application on top of the newly created app service instance. Okay, now the deployment was successful. It has deployed the application as well, and let's see if the application is properly deployed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Azure portal and navigate to the web app instance that we created, and I'm going to click on the applications URL, and now this should have the ASP.NET Core MVC web application that we created hosted inside of this. Give it a few seconds to load up, and now you can see the application is deployed, and it's the same application that we created and deployed earlier as well. So this is basically how you can include infrastructure as code using ARM templates in your build and release pipelines, and how you can validate them using your build pipeline, and after validating you can deploy your ARM templates as part of your release pipeline. So next up we will talk about how to improve the existing build and release pipeline that we have created more. And until we meet in the in a future episode, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.